we're going to talk about a really fascinating legal tool. It's almost like a detective's magnifying glass. It's called the Instrumentality Test, and believe it or not, it helps answer a critical question that could have a huge impact on your everyday life.
You know, we deal with these huge, powerful organizations all the time, right? But have you ever stopped to think, is that massive corporation or that university or even some agency actually just the government in disguise?
And look, this isn't just some abstract legal puzzle. The answer to that question matters a lot. It's what decides if that organization has to respect your fundamental rights, the most basic protections you have as a citizen. Okay, so let's get right into the heart of it. The real issue here is a constitutional problem, and it's all about accountability. See, the Constitution says the state has to protect your rights. But what happens when it's not so clear what the state is? When those lines between government and private just get really, really blurry? All right, first things first, let's get on the same page. Under the law, like in Article 12 of India's Constitution, the state basically means government bodies. These are the folks who absolutely have to respect your fundamental rights. If they step out of line, you can take them to court. Sounds simple, right? Well, it's not always that black and white. So, to figure this whole puzzle out, the courts came up with this really smart investigative tool, the Instrumentality Test. Seriously, think of it as a way to pull back the curtain on a company and see who's really pulling the strings. And this isn't some brand new idea either. It was really locked in by some major court cases. Back in 1979, for example, a court decided that the International Airport Authority was, for all intents and purposes, part of the state. Then, just a couple of years after that, another big case backed up that same idea. These rulings are what built the whole framework we're talking about today. So if you take away one thing, let it be this. The entire test, the whole shebang, really just boils down to one simple question. Is there deep and pervasive control by the government? That's the magic phrase. That's what the court is searching for. Okay, so how do they actually find this deep and pervasive control? Well, they don't just guess. They have a checklist, a 6-factor test. Let's go through it, kind of like a detective working a case. All right, here's the checklist. First up, share capital. Who owns the company? Is it all government money? Second, financial help. Is the government pretty much footing the entire bill? Third, monopoly power. Did the state give this company a free pass to be the only gain in town? Fourth, actual control. Does the government have its hands all over the management decisions? Fifth, public duty. Is the company doing a job that the government usually does? And last but not least, number 6, was this thing basically just a government department that got a new name? But, and this is super important, it's not just a simple scorecard. You don't just add up the points, It's not like, 4 out of 6, yep, it's the state. The courts have to look at the whole picture, the overall vibe. Yeah, it's way more like a judge weighing evidence on a scale. In one case, financial control might be the heaviest piece of evidence. In another, it might be something else entirely. The court puts all these factors together to see which way the scale tips, towards government control or not. Okay, so let's get to the really important part, the big finale. What's the impact? What happens when a court actually goes through this whole process and says, yep, this organization is an instrumentality of the state? This is the big payoff, right here. A normal private company, it doesn't really have to worry about your fundamental rights in the same way. But the second a body gets that instrumentality of the state label, bam, everything changes. It is now required to protect your rights. It's accountable to you, to the public, and to the courts. So when you boil it all down, this whole test is really about casting a wider net of accountability. It's a way to make sure that even when the government gets creative and sets up new kinds of organizations to do its work, it can't just wiggle out of its most important job, protecting your rights. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about, doesn't it? When you look around at all the powerful forces shaping our world today, I'm talking about giant tech companies, huge global organizations, which of them do you think should have to face this kind of test? What does it even mean to be the state in this century?